damn, it's like how powerful habits are. It's unreal. Like if you think about it, a lot of our life is a habit. You know, we don't even realize it, and you know, simple things we do, we don't realize took a lot of practice, especially through childhood. We don't realize that things that we've established early on in life, which is why it's like crucial for children, you know, in a healthy, gentle way of guidance, that they establish healthy routines that could be eventually habitual, because the idea is to ingrain a set of ways that are, I'd like to say, leap to like an optimal way of living, or optimizing what is actually beneficial and could only be beneficial. Like for example, like if you're, so a good healthy habit is to exercise. Everyone knows, there's no doubt that it's a fact that exercise is healthy. There's just no doubt. Now, of course, you could speculate against that depending on the context of the exercise, what type of exercise, how hard, what's your health conditions, what's your abilities, are you being realistic? There's a lot of ways to look at it, so it's not just to like generalize, but the idea is that if you are doing it the right way, the healthy way, you know, it's important, and not only that, but you know, it could actually like just dramatically help your life out, you know, if done the right way and all that, you know. So the idea is like when we're depressed and we're going through hard times, we're most likely not going to exercise. We're most likely not going to want to care, especially if you were someone who exercised, or you were somebody who has had that type of ability in your life, and now you're at a point where, or you've been at a point for a while where you struggle, and it's like you don't want to do anything. And that's why this is debilitating. It really stops you from living your life. And maybe you still have to go to work, or you have a family, or whatever. You still have to survive. So you have to force yourself to habitually do that. And you may not even be present. You may not even be, you know, doing it to the, you know, even what I'd like to say bare minimum. And you might even be below that threshold, even if that exists. It's, the idea is like you just push yourself through it, and it sucks. Maybe it helps us to stay distracted, you know. But when we're alone and we're feeling it, you know what I'm talking about, or you could at least relate that the idea is like when we finally are feeling like, you know, this sucks. And we almost want to turn to anything that's going to help us. One thing that we turn to, besides like drugs and besides like, you know, an addiction, you know, besides all that stuff, we turn to something that I like to say it's just called laziness. And, you know, when we get distracted, when we just don't want to feel the way we're feeling, I mean, there's obviously good reasons for that. Not to say we're going about it in a good way, but this is why it's important. It's almost vital to continue, if you've been doing something that has been helpful in your life, to just continue doing it, even at a bare minimum. Because I really do believe that once we stop doing the habit we were doing, or we've never really were doing it to begin with, but we try and we eventually just stop, whatever has been ingrained as far as muscle memory, as far as mental memory, you know, emotional memory, whatever the memory is, it's almost as if like that stays where it's at. And it's almost as if like, it's not like you can never go back to it and, you know, just continue. Of course you might need to, you know, have progress to get to where you were, but that's not the point of this. The point of this isn't to excel. The point of it isn't to, and obviously I would like you to excel, but the reality is, you know, if we could just continue moving on with our life, continue, as much as it sucks, to just continue moving on with our life. And like exercise is a good idea, because there are so many benefits to exercise. Mental, emotional, physical. I mean, it's endless. It does so many things for our body. And who the hell is going to be thinking of their body or the benefits to anything good if you're feeling like horrible? You know, it's a contradiction of life to say, oh, I'm gonna want to do this, you're not going to want to do it. That's the point. But the point is, we're gonna also come to a phase in time, whether you've been in this phase or not, that you're gonna feel good in times, and then in those times you're gonna be like, all right, I feel like taking care of myself. I feel like improving myself, and maybe you're gonna do that thing hard, and you're gonna do it to the best that you can, or maybe not. Maybe you're just gonna do it because it feels good, like just taking a walk. Like, I feel good. You know what? I'm just gonna go take a walk. It doesn't mean you have to walk fast. Doesn't mean you have to go run, or whatever just to feel good means to you. And you end up deviating from when you weren't feeling good, doing things that you shouldn't have been doing, or just being lazy and procrastinating and stuff like that. I think there's a benefit to being lazy, but the problem is when it's as a result of because of a debilitating condition. That's also set in like a habitual way of being, which is also becoming ingrained as like a response. Like, our brain realizes, well, when you're feeling really crappy, you're going to just continue doing nothing, and you're going to continue just feeling crappy, and you continue just doing whatever it is. And the idea isn't to trick the brain that we're happy. The idea is to realize, and our brain will realize this, which is why it becomes natural and it becomes habitual. Because a habit, if we think about it, may not be something we necessarily even want to do, or we consciously choose. A habit is something that's been ingrained because we just kept repeating it and repeating it. It's like the way you breathe right now. That's a habit. You can change that. As ridiculous as that may sound, or maybe it doesn't sound ridiculous, you can change anything if you have the ability to, and you can work with it. But this is the problem. When we are defunct, I was going to say defunctional, or not functional. We just are, whatever it is. And the truth is, try to keep going. And I'm not saying you can't just go ahead and, be down in the dumps because you're feeling like crap. I get it, it sucks. And there's benefit to that too, to a degree, but not when it's how we live our life. And what I'm trying to say is, if we could just, like with the idea with exercise, and I'm not pushing the idea of just exercise, there's a bunch of things you could do, but the idea is like just to continue. You could apply this to anything, just to continue living, just to continue going. And what happens is, we will eventually just turn to that as a habit. Perhaps when you are feeling down, you might even go do that habit. You're like, wait a second, that's weird. I don't want to go do this habit. But it's like it comes in your mind to go do it. And that's a pretty impressive thing to occur, because sometimes when we're in such low states, nothing good comes in our mind. So the idea is like, well, this is good. It's coming in your mind. Maybe you'll follow it. Maybe you won't. But that's why it's a process. Eventually you do follow it. Eventually you do it. And it's not to say this is perfect. It's not always going to stick. It's not always going to stay. But the idea is, could we contribute to the possibility of it just occurring more frequently? And that being an improvement, whether we like it or not. Because that's the point. So what you could find yourself doing is bitching and moaning through a simple exercise. It doesn't have to be hard. You're not trying to do it to make yourself feel good. And you may be surprised that maybe you do feel good. But the idea is to just continue living your life, is what I'm trying to say, to the best that you can, where you're at with who you are. The best that you can, seriously, when one is depressed, might just be to get out of bed and take a walk around the house once. That might be the best. And that might suck to do. Or progress from there on. Walk around your property, or walk down the street or something. And what I'm trying to say is, this could be progressive. It could be, incremental steps towards what we can consider an improvement in the direction we want to go in. But the idea is, regardless of improvement in the direction we want to go in, the idea is to just continue. To just continue. It's like, you know, when we get in our states, what happens is, I like to call it like the pile-up method. And this applies even when we're really healthy and normal and everything, whatever. The pile-up method is, whatever you have in life and whatever is a part of your life, and whatever you do, if that's not maintained, it piles up. So that's why it's extremely healthy to not let things pile up when we're being in such a debilitating state. And I know how excruciating it may be to go do such basic things, but the idea is, when you let things pile up, well, it's just going to get worse. And we could flip this and put this on the idea of depression, because when we let depression pile up and it just continues and continues and continues, guess what? It's just going to continue. In a way, we're maintaining depression. We're maintaining it. But what I'm trying to say is, we flip it the other way, like I was just saying, and we put that towards our life. It's not that the depression goes away, but we're maintaining things that are important. Like, for example, doing dishes. I don't know anyone that really likes to do dishes. Maybe people like to do dishes. I don't know. But the idea is, well, if you don't do your dishes, they're going to pile up. And some people let it pile up. And some people even have habits where they let it get to a degree and they fix it. Some people let it go way overboard, and there's dishes in the room, and there's dishes all over the place. And it's like, the idea is to maintain that. To at least some kind of healthy condition, not to overboard it, not to be perfect. And so it's not to be perfect with anything. The idea is to like find some kind of functional way where it works and it just doesn't become maintained at an unhealthy, unstable, or even chaotic level of conditioning. So it's like, you know, do the dishes when they're supposed to be done, or do your dishes when you're done using them, and make that your habit. Something simple like that. Because what happens is, things pile up, like our bedrooms or our laundry. I don't know about you, but I've definitely had very poor habits with being clean. Not that I'm a very dirty person, but the idea with me in this example is, I would let my bedroom become in such a disarray over time. And this is how I've like lived my whole life with so many things. And not that it's perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better than it's ever been. So the idea is like, okay, so our rooms, our bedrooms and stuff, even our cars, wherever, even your office at work or whatever it is, they become in disarray. And for reasons they become in disarray. We don't give them much of attention, or we have other things on our mind, or whatever. But one thing's for sure, we get to a point in our life where it's like, all right, I can't even like function anymore. I can't stand this. Or we get to a point like, I need to at least find my clothes. Like, come on. You know, we get to a point where whatever is causing us to fix that or clean it, we do it. Right? And the craziest part is, we feel good at the end. For the most part, even if you're not like, you know, blossoming with good feelings, at least you're like, this is better. You know it's better. Whether or not it feels good is irrelevant. But I would hope it felt better. But the idea is, you know it's better. It's more functional. It's something you could even, you know, feel like you would like to keep it that way. But what happens is, things that we fix and we take care of, we don't maintain it. So the pile-up effect affects everything like this. Everything, because everything, unfortunately, needs to be maintained. Our bodies, our minds, our intelligence, our emotions, but our bedrooms, you don't maintain that. So I'm not saying everything needs to be improved and great and perfect and polished and, you know, everything that we are, everything that's about us, everything we own. No, but if you keep the idea, the fundamental idea of maintaining, when you are done taking clothes off, put them in the laundry, whatever, the hamper. Put them in the pile where they belong, not just throw them in a closet or under the bed or on the floor. But what happens is, when we do this, and we could apply this to our workplace, we could apply this anywhere, even a kid with their toys. When it's not put away when they're done, what happens is, it stays there. And we don't look at that as like a problem, because the room, if we just got done cleaning it, even if like a week later we start being like this, maybe we tried maintaining it, it doesn't work. What happens is we notice that object or that shirt that's like on the ground or whatever, you know, and it's like, it's only one object. But you know what happens is that turns to 2 to 3, and the pile up is surely in effect. And what we start to realize is the dishes pile up, the bedrooms pile up, the laundry piles up, dirt in your home piles up. When's the last time you vacuumed? You know, everything piles up. Even our responsibilities. If you think about it, we're all responsible for something. But when that's not maintained, and I'm not saying you need to do everything on like the to-do list, but the most important things they just need to be maintained. Not to be perfect, but if you could just maintain the things that are, you know, impactful in your life, just the basic things. The basic things to me would be like the things I mentioned, but like also taking care of our body, brushing our teeth, you know, taking showers. You know, when we get depressed, what happens is even the things that are just natural and healthy and the basic things, they fall backwards. Or maybe they were never really maintained to begin with, and now we're in this state, this emotional, debilitating state, and it's like, man, how do we even develop healthy habits now when we never even had them? And they were always a struggle. Well, that sucks. But it doesn't mean you can't continue. That's all I'm saying. You can continue. And it doesn't mean you can't throw something else into the mix if you're able to. You could say, you know what, it's good. But you don't want to overdo it, because you can only do so much is the idea. So the idea is to try to set your priorities straight. Make a list, or just know, I need to do this, this, and this every day. Because if I don't maintain it, it's going to suck trying to reverse this. And I don't want to try to reverse it. That's why I'm going to try to maintain it. That's the idea. As much as it sucks, it's the truth. So when you find yourself in conditions where you're realizing, wait, I'm consistently now being lazy, I'm consistently now more withdrawn, I'm consistently now doing things that are unhealthy, well, realize that's going on. And what you're not doing is consistently what you should be doing, which are the healthy things. That's all. And that's hard to do, because maybe the consistently unhealthy things make us feel better. For whatever the reason, they make you feel good. And that's kind of like the problem, because if it might feel good to be lazy, it might feel good to do things that are unhealthy. It might that's just reality. But you can combat that, not to say totally get rid of all that and be like, oh, I'm the best, I can fix my life. We need to be realistic and start integrating and start doing things that are good, and just forcing yourself to do it. Not thinking how much it sucks, and that's another mind twist, because when we do things we don't want to do, we think about it. So the point is, try to find ways where you're not. Like, music is a great alternative. Maybe you're not a music person, but to me, even if I'm not in the mood, certain music, it might get my mind off something. And while that's occurring, I could be doing something beneficial. And therefore, I apply like this, I'd like to say this like connection of music and something. So it's like almost an instinct that works together. Like some type of music and working out. That sometimes works. And when you hear a song, it reminds you of working out maybe. Or music and just cleaning and maintaining it. Not falling back and letting the pile-up effect occur. And this is what we do. Even the healthiest people do this. So the reality is, maintaining could be helpful for anybody with whatever you're doing. And if you can do that, and you can apply this strategy to your life, especially especially during debilitating ways of our life. If we think about it, even someone who's, they had a horrific accident, right? And I'm not trying to make light of, anyone's condition, our condition, or a mental health condition. But let's say somebody like broke their leg or something, right? And I don't even know if anyone would want to say that's horrific, but let's just say that's not a good thing, right? So that person, that could affect them emotionally and mentally and all that, but they still need to do rehab at some point. They still need to do it. And they might say, I hate it. I don't like the way it feels. I don't like moving my leg. I hate it. So what they're doing is they're feeding a maintenance of maybe not allowing the body to be contributed in such a way that it helps. And that becomes habitual. Even doing things that aren't healthy and helpful become habitual. And all I'm saying is, even in a state like that, what would be more beneficial? Them, fighting that desire to not want to do it, but they're supposed to do it, and it's going to help them, and maintaining that. Maybe they get used to it, maybe they don't, but still, it's maintained. They're going to be a hell of a lot better when everything heals, or when everything is, a year later, than if they didn't maintain it, is the idea. And the problem is, we don't look at the future. And what sucks is, this is like the suckiest part. A lot of times in our mental health conditions where they're like limiting us and they are stopping us, they're preventing us, it literally is really putting a halt on progression, on improvement, on desire, on caring. It sucks. But the reality is, it sucks now. And it almost seems impossible. Think of the future. Think about like a year from now. What would that be like? No, I don't want to think about a year from now. It sucks now. It's like somebody, slamming their hand, in the door or something. And that friggin' sucks, right? That's terrible. And it's like trying to tell them, hey, it's going to be okay. No. Shut the hell up. The hell are you talking about? It sucks. Let me friggin' deal with it and let it suck. I'm allowed to let it suck. So, you are. But the reality is, when that becomes consistent, that becomes our mindset, that becomes like our default, well, that's how you're always going to be then. I'm not saying you shouldn't allow things to suck. I'm not saying you should just be in like, Wonderland, make pretend, make believe land. No, you need to be real. Your experience is your experience. You need to be where you're at with it. However, regardless, we need to also realize the reality that we are experiencing at this second may very well, in fact, be a completely different reality if we attended to our current reality, or moved forward with attending to our current reality in such a way that our future reality will be thankful on how we worked with our past reality. So much so, we could look back at our past reality and be like, holy friggin' crap, I was able to move through that. And when you can do that, I'm going to say you could almost do anything within reason of your capabilities. Because the idea is, we don't think we're capable. We don't want to think we're capable. And that's very real. But that's not realistic. Realisticness means, what are you actually capable of doing, which you don't realize you're capable of doing? That's realistic. As long as it's realistic and not something, my reality eventually will be significantly better and profoundly, impactful on my life and maybe the lives around me. No, that's not as realistic as saying it will be better. Now, it's not to say it won't be significantly better. We don't know. But that's why it's important to be realistic. And the whole point of adding a realistic approach to this, it allows us to contribute to where we are, with who we are, with where we're at, and allow that while contributing moving forwards to a possible different reality that may be better. Doesn't mean it's going to be, but I'm going to say the possibility of it being better drastically improves when we move in that direction. When we stay still, and that is the continuous approach, I don't see really where that's going to take us, except in the same spot we are at. Where in fact we could be in a different spot, one where we're like, this is better, even if we were to look behind ourselves and say, where I wasn't much different, but we could definitely for a fact say this is better. And that's the idea, because if you can get to that better spot at some point and say, yeah, this is better. Like that person who's in the bed or, debilitated because their leg is broken. If they were maintaining the proper way of trying to improve that, they could say maybe even a year later, yeah, I feel a lot better. I have better mobility. I still struggle. I still have a limp. I still have fear. I still have anxiety, but you know what? I am doing better. Holy crap. Just a little bit. So it's very deceiving. It's very deceiving to look at the future because we don't know the future. But I'm gonna, I don't want to put a guarantee on this, but I'd like to put on the likelihood. It's more of a likelihood that you would look back on your past experience, even, at some point, and be like, I'm better. Maybe I'm not where I want to be, but I'm moving in the right direction. And that's a hell of a lot different than not being there and saying, this sucks, and do nothing about it.